How many of these HLFs have you been to?
This is my fifth.
So you've been to all of them?
I've been to all of them, yes.
Have you noticed any changes over the years?
It's been, they've gotten a lot of the kinks out. For example, now we have business cards for the laureates as well as for the young researchers.
And apparently you like it because you keep coming back.
Yes, I enjoy the interactions with the young researchers and also with the other laureates. It's a way to meet them again. And an opportunity to bring a member of my family along. This time I brought my son along for the first time.
So, speaking of the young people,
yes,
I would guess that a lot of them come up to you and ask you for advice and so forth.
That does happen, yes. They seem to be a little bit shy sometimes of doing that. For example, no one sat down at this table yet with us. We'll wait for the next bus load.
Well, of course, the first couple of days, people I think are shyer as they get to know who's who.
Yes.
What sort of advice do you think they're looking for, and what do you tell them?
They ask, I think about the research process. How do you find your results, or what do you recommend I work on? That kind of.
And how do you figure out what to tell them?
Well, in regards to what to do, I tell them they should do the thing they like the most. But that's more likely to be fruitful and lead to a happier life. I tell them that using the right model is important, that they should put time into really thinking about the model they're using and whether it really captures what they are what they're interested in.
Well, what do you mean by model exactly? Can you give an example?
Well, with my own work, I think back to when we were working on the complexity of space complexity, and at first it looked kind of trivial. And then we got the idea of putting the input on a separate read-only tape, and then that opened up more low-level complexity classes. For example, log n space was now possible, where it had no meaning, and if you just
model, you mean mathematical model.
So the mathematical model. Yes, and of course in our work on time complexity, we spent a long time thinking about how to model complexity, and once we had the right model, the results came pretty easily and pretty fast.
So most of these researchers are in the early mid-20s, I would say. Is there anything in particular about that age that you would recommend for the next 5 years?
The things that they're working on now are things that weren't even contemplated when I was their age.
I mean that for that age of researcher, for that period of their life, is there anything in particular that you think they should pay attention to?
No, I don't have a.
So I'm sorry I interrupted you a little bit there. Talking about differences between now and then.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit about what you were doing at that age, in your mid-20s, let's say, and what sort of problems you might have had and how you faced them?
Well, when I was in my mid-20s, I was exactly 25 years old when I started working at General Electric in their research laboratory. And I was had a degree in mathematics, and I'd been there the summer before and saw they were working on interesting problems, but there was they had no computer, and it turned out that what we were doing was more fundamental to computer science than anything else. So at that point, it could have gone. The future of computer science could have gone a lot of different academically. Mathematicians, math departments could have stepped up and said, "Oh, this is mathematics," and expanded to computers. Electrical engineers might have made an effort, but it turned out that people were starting computer science departments on their own. Well, I know Urs Hartmanis, who I did my work with, he in 1965 started the department at Cornell. And that was one of the first that was one of the first.
Did you have any mentors that you remember that really brought you along?
Well, as far as my thesis work was in game theory, and I had Harold Kuhn as a thesis advisor, and he introduced me to Bob Aumann, who happened to be visiting a consulting firm in Princeton at the same time, and I got my problem. I got the subject of my dissertation from him, and he checked it all out when I had the results I wanted, and I guess I didn't know it, but explaining my results to him was my exam, because I know that Harold Kuhn made some suggestions, but he didn't. I know no one read the actual thesis itself, because years later I found a page. Of course, in that time everything was done on a typewriter, and I found a page that I had neglected to go back and put in the superscripts and the subscripts, and no one noticed that. So I don't know what the lesson is. Lesson is there.
So really, your exam was this informal conversation that you had.
Yes, I mean I didn't know it at the time. Well, at this point I presented my, proof and all the subparts. It took. I had it written down on a few small sheets of paper, but it turned out that it took 3 hours, 3 one-hour sessions to go through it all. And at one point I had to, we stopped so I could discover the case that it hadn't covered in my notes. And so I fixed that up, and the next time it continued from there.
So, have you met any of the researchers who have especially who've brought new ideas that you hadn't thought of, or anything that's really been interesting to you?
No, the very, very small number that are done things or doing things that fit what I did. So I go through the book that they prepare with the list of the researchers and then their blurbs, and see which ones I might be interested in. There may be, I don't know, 5 to 10 and most of them are doing things with large-scale computing and doing things that theory. They're happy. They're happy if their programs work, and because they're so big, you can't. They're very hard to treat, theoretically.
Anything else you'd care to say either about the Heidelberg Laureate Forum or the researchers, the whole experience?
Well, as I said, they're doing things better. For example, the book I just talked about with the list of the young researchers and their interest, they didn't have that the first one or two. So, and of course, this boat trip has been, I guess one year they had something else instead of the boat trip, but the traditions have now been well established.
I heard that it was a big advance to not have people get off the boat, because when that happened, it was complicated.
Yes, the first couple of times they got off the boat, and then they had they served some food, a little side place there, and you could walk around the town a bit, but there wasn't. It was quaint, but there wasn't beyond the architecture. There was nothing to see, and there were hills to climb. That would be more difficult for me now, and so that took time and didn't contribute to the purpose of the trip, I guess.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time.